The world wants to know, could Sam Sulek, who has a proper tan, beat Mike Israetel at his best? You can see the detail, the way he's posing. I gotta give this one to Mike Israetel. It shouldn't appear to be the chest of a woman. I don't see that. I just see a blob of muscle. Who am I going to pick? Coach Reg, and due to popular demand, Sam Sulek versus Mike Israetel. And so by the end of the video, will you be Samming your Sulek or Miking your Israetel? And so I posted Sam versus Sebum in their very first competitions. And so obviously that wouldn't be fair. We're going to be showing Mike Israetel at his best versus Sam Sulek competing in his first competition. Both lose to Dr. Mike with proper tan and lack of 20 pounds of body water stored in muffin top. This gonna be his next video for sure. Clearly, Dr. Mike is better than all of them. The world wants to know, could Sam Sulek, who has a proper tan, beat Mike Israetel at his best? Let's get right into it. And so first up, we're going to compare the front double bicep pose. And so we're going to judge from the floor down. And so as you can see, Mike Israetel, very excellent calf development. Leading into the quads, you can see there's a lot of size. Now, his legs appear to be a lot shorter than his upper body. That's slightly out of balance in terms of what is symmetry from the top of his body to his bottom, but he does appear to have very good legs. Although he could be displaying more definition, I do believe he's doing his best with his posing. His leg is pointed out to the side. It's making his leg appear bigger. You can see the sartorius muscle, that long muscle coming down the center of his leg. And so very strong quads. And surprisingly enough, he is performing an excellent vacuum pose. Now, unfortunately, we don't see the striations, the size in the biceps. It is slightly lacking. And the lats, they don't go out as far as you would be expecting. But overall, a great pose for Dr. Mike. Next up, Sam in the front double bicep pose taken from his routine. Now, from the bottom to the top, you can see Sam also has excellent calves. Now, his quads, they are in fact massive, but he isn't posing them as effectively as Mike Israetel. You can see there is some feathering of the quads, but from halfway up the leg onto his posing trunks, you don't see very much detail. If I'm going by what I'm seeing, Dr. Mike has Sam in the legs. Now, the vacuum pose, Sam's vacuum appears to be deeper. It's more aesthetic, and Sam has amazing biceps and wider lats. You can tell the upper body has more definition, and if it's going to be a toss-up, a close call between the two, you give it to who has the better overall physique. Sam has more balance from the upper body to the lower, the length of the limbs compared to the upper body, the conditioning, and even the smile. I'm giving it a slight edge to Sam Sulek, but Mike Israetel hot on his tail. And I don't mean hot on his tail as in he's trying to Mike his Israetel, but maybe he'll save that for later. Next up, let's judge them from the side. And so on the first quarter turn, we're going to be judging their symmetry. And so again, starting from the bottom up, Mike does display excellent calves, very thick quads and hamstrings, and you can see striations on his glutes. From the bottom, Mike is very impressive. Now, from the waist up, Mike does appear to have a blocky waist. He has a very thick or blocky waist, and although you can see some definition, I do see some lines in the obliques and some abdominals. The width of the stomach, it is in fact detracting from his aesthetics. The chest, very well developed, the traps, the shoulders, slightly less developed in the arms. But overall, if it was not for his blocky waist, he would be doing very good in this pose. Now, I would recommend his head looks slightly higher up. He appears to be feeling a lot of rage inside as he's doing this pose. Perhaps he's upset that he can't blow out all of his air in his stomach, but he's doing the best that he can.
Thank you, Greg.
And from the side pose, now Sam's quads are shredded. Sam's legs are peeled. Now, Here's the main difference between Sam Sulek and Mike Israetel. Sam's waist is tiny, at least in comparison to Mike's. Notice the detail, the slicing, the oblique muscles, how tight that is. Sam is peeled, and on top of that, his chest is well formed, strided, arms, delts, everything. And so from the side, it's not even close. Even if Mike Israetel beats Sam from the front and the rear, it's not even close on the side. Mike simply has too thick of a waistline, and of course it is. Think of it, they weigh about the same. Mike weighed in around 217 and Sam around 216. Sam, however, is 5 or 6 inches taller. Sam, 5'11". Mike Israetel, 5'5" or perhaps 5'6". And next up, what about from the rear? Well, let's look at Mike Israetel's rear lat spread pose. And so the first thing I notice is Mike has a lot of muscle. He's very dense. Going from the waist up, calves, excellent development, lots of size. He has thick hamstrings, even has quads. Glutes, although not shredded, they're definitely well developed. And he does appear to have a smaller waist, at least from the rear. Lats well formed. And so overall, this is an excellent pose for Mike. The only criticism is he's not lean enough. But remember, this is not Mike Israetel's fault. Mike Israetel, from having formerly bulked up to 270 pounds when he was natural, he currently to this day carries 20 pounds of body water. Now, you might think I'm making fun of him, that I'm teasing him, but it's his words, not mine. This is what Mike says about his own physique. And so because he has a PhD and he has a raw IQ score higher than everyone, I have to take him at his word. And so imagine if Mike could lose the 20 pounds of body water that's on the sides of his body.
I'm both on a raw IQ scale smarter than almost every coach, maybe every coach.
Sam Sulek would not even be close. But remember, that would mean that Mike Israetel, rather than weighing in at 217, he'd be 197. And guess what? That would put him in the light heavyweight category. And so imagine if Mike were able to make the light heavyweight category and come in shredded. He has the size, he has the muscle, but he doesn't have the detail. And so overall, this is an excellent pose for Mike, just not as shredded as I'd like him to be. But what about Sam Sulek? And so when Sam Sulek poses from the rear, the first thing he likes to do is show his Christmas tree. He pulls his arm back. You can see the striations, the detail. The Christmas tree is unreal. And not only that, his hamstrings, they're etched in stone. They're shredded, but he doesn't have as much muscle as Mike Israetel. I'm sorry. And so as he fully extends into his rear lat spread, you can see the definition of the calves, the hamstrings, the lats, everything. He has so much detail. And so essentially we have apples versus oranges. They're both fruits, but one is completely different. They have a different taste. And so who am I going to pick? The shredded, detailed muscle of Sam Sulek or the size of Mike Israetel? Well, I'm sorry, but for me, it is in fact a bodybuilding competition, and you have to have the definition. I don't care if you're 300 pounds, if you're not showing the detail, you can't win. And so although I think that if Mike were leaner, he would in fact beat Sam Sulek, he's not leaner in this pose. And so I have to give it to Sam Sulek. Now, if Mike had the proper tan and he could fully show that definition, that detail, I'm giving it to Mike. Up next, side chest or side tricep pose. Dr. Mike, I couldn't find him doing a side tricep, and so I'm going to be looking at his side chest. Again, calves well developed, detailed, quads and hamstrings, lots of muscle, lacking a little bit of definition, and the glutes, they do have some striations. And in the upper body, a lot of thickness, great looking chest, trapezius, arms could have a little bit more size, but I am noticing the blocky waist. If Mike could blow out all of his air to make his waist appear smaller, it would make all the rest of his physique look that much harder. And so overall, Mike is actually looking pretty good. If he actually had the smaller waist, it would be a different story. Sam, in comparison, he has way more definition. His calves are leaner and very well developed. The side of the leg, Sam is showing more definition, but his legs are not quite as big, not quite as full. Sam not flexing his glutes, you can't see that muscle, and so I can't give him points for something he doesn't show off. Now, the upper body, biceps, shoulders, chest, excellent development, vascularity, conditioning, great looking tan. And to top it all else, I see a small waist with excellent oblique development. There is way more conditioning, way more detail. And again, apples to oranges. One has the definition, the better shape. The other one has more size. And so I'm going to go like this. For bodybuilding, I'm going to give it to Mike Israetel. For classic physique, I'm giving it to Sam Sulek. They're two different looks. In bodybuilding, we care more about size. In classic physique, it's more about the shape and definition of the muscle. And so seeing I'm saying, who's the better bodybuilder, I'm giving this round to Mike Israetel.
Thank you, Greg.
I'm sorry, Sam. Although you have more definition and detail, I gotta give this one to Mike Israetel. Next up, the most muscular. Mike Israetel, he does in fact have a lot of size. His legs are looking pretty good. He has a lot of size. He's showing his legs off to the best of his abilities. However, he simply doesn't have the muscularity. It's called a most muscular. The most muscular doing this pose. Now, I do believe I have just as much muscularity, as in line showing detail and so on, in the studio in my off season on HRT as Mike Israetel with a proper tan on stage. Damn! And so when you're doing this pose, you shouldn't have loose softness in the chest. It shouldn't appear to be the chest of a woman. And so as he's standing there, I see a lot of size. I can see some of his abs, but remember, a lot of guys see abs at 20% body fat. Just because you can see abs doesn't mean that you're shredded. And so I don't see the crustaceans, the lines going across the chest. You should see some striations. Just like if you put your hand in your biceps between the two biceps, you should have a line inside. Biceps, two heads. It's separated. And so in the pecs, the pec major, the pec minor, I should see a difference. I don't see that. I just see a blob of muscle. Not saying that he's fat. He's clearly leaner than most people, single-digit body fat. But for bodybuilding, the most muscular, you want the guy to be absolutely shredded. And so, case in point, Sam Sulek hitting a most muscular. I see a line going so deep, both sides of the chest. Striations going across the shoulder. The traps, it looks like there's a hole inside. You can see striations, fibers moving everywhere. In my opinion, Sam is so much leaner than Mike Israetel that it's not even close. Now remember, Mike has more muscle than Sam. I do believe he has more muscle, but he's not showing it effectively because he lacks the detail. And so if I'm judging a bodybuilding competition, I'm giving this one to Sam. And so the final pose we're going to be looking at is, let's call it the athlete's favorite pose. In classic physique, it's your favorite classic pose. In bodybuilding, you just do what you want. And so in Mike Israel's case, he's the saying bye to the crowd pose. And so essentially what he's doing is he's waving to the crowd. Thank you for your support. I'm glad to be getting off this stage, and look at my belly hanging out. And so remember, you're always being judged on stage. At every moment, the judges are looking at you. And so if you just let your belly relax, allow it to look distended, the judges, they remember that. And so what they're going to be remembering is this guy, he has a big belly, but perhaps it's just because of his tan. And so the next time I would suggest he flexes the stomach, like pulls his stomach in and waves to the crowd. Thank you, crowd. Thank you for all your applause. Does a most muscular, waves and says bye. That is how you can show confidence. I'm here. I own the stage. Many IFBB pros, Olympians, they pound their chest, they wave to the crowd. Yeah, that's right, it's me. They think they're gorillas. Now, Mike Israetel, who sometimes looks like a gorilla. I mean, have you seen the back hair as he does certain exercises and so on?
Oh my God!
Mike would be the best guy of all time to perhaps promote a hair trimmer and so on. Imagine if Mike Israetel said, this is the before, this is the after. Goes from a gorilla to a masterpiece. And in comparison, we see Sam Sulek doing the twisting rear double bicep, emulating Arnold Schwarzenegger the Great. You can see the detail, the way he's posing, and Sam, he waves to the crowd, he walks off stage. He does not let his stomach hang out. And so, overall, who do you think is going to be the victor? Of course it's going to be Sam. Mike Israetel had Sam on size, but because Sam had a combination of size, aesthetics, and definition, and a proper 10, he easily comes out on top. And so Sam, in a week's time, will be competing for his IFBB Pro card at the Arnold Classic. And so we're wishing him the best. Mike Israetel, he's in his 40s. I do believe it's time to retire. Why would he want to take years off of his life to do a sport where he doesn't need to do? He's already got a massive following. He's got the most popular, I believe, app in the world, RP, which stands for Really Pale, an excellent app. And so why not continue with your app? But if he does decide to compete, I certainly hope he can reach out to Sam Sulek and hire him for his training guidelines and so on, to give him the proper diet, to say, you know what, Mike, off season, you can eat the cereals and Gatorade, but pre-contest, you got to cut that stuff out. He could encourage Dr. Mike to do more cardio and to ride his bike for cardio like Sam and Coach Greg do every single day. And of course, in order to experience less rage than last time, Dr. Mike should be getting Turk Max as well as Geo2 Max. The T-plug stack gonna give him more energy, be able to push harder in the gym, and perhaps go natty after all. Click the link in the description, enter code Greg for 15% off. Also, I believe the freaking cookbook and my Circle diet book, How to Lose Weight, Keep It Off for the Rest of Your Life. I don't think he needs my training book. Mike knows a lot about training, but certainly could improve himself in the kitchen. Hire a chef, practice speaking Spanish, Mike Israetel, and perhaps you could be the next Coach Greg. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to watch one of those two bloops, and if you want a free diet and training program, that's right, it's free. Head over to my website, and don't forget about the clothing line as well. And until next time, I am out.